Hi guys, it's good to see you again. Thanks for tuning in once again for another deep talk on a very interesting and important subject. Today the subject we're going to discuss is that of personal empowerment and developing a level of self-empowerment that's independent of external circumstances. So no matter what happens in our external environment, we're always coming into the world from a place of power, of strength, of possibilities, of we can make it happen by having certain beliefs, mindsets, self-talk, and so on that we're going to review as we go deeper into this talk. I hope everyone is having another wonderful, infinitely extraordinary day filled with magic moments, just as I always do. This is my base setting that I wake up every morning and set as an intention. And that's one way to approach self-empowerment and starting to build this habit of self-empowerment, because it's a habit, it's a muscle you can train and you can develop over time. You cannot expect to do it once and for the rest of your life things to change. You have to practice it consciously daily to make sure that this becomes your way of being, not something that you do once in a while when you feel down or so on. No, this is a muscle that you have to exercise just like everything else is. So the first point we're going to look at today to dive deep already is that very essential and important fact to understand, that life is a subjective experience. What does this mean? This means that each and every one of us is having a unique experience. And even though two people can be, or 1,000 or 1,000,000 people can be put in the same room, go through the same experience from the perspective of what happened and so on, but each and every one of them is going to experience it, see it, feel it, hear it, taste it, and so on from their own unique perspective. And no one will, or no two people in that same room will have the exact same experience and understanding. Which means that it's not the experience, but it's how we perceive or the meaning we create about a circumstance or a situation in our life or an experience or whatever it is that really affects us. The truth is that nothing can affect us unless we give it permission to. And what I mean, things outside of us cannot affect us on us, especially on an emotional and mental level, until we give it the ability to do so. We give it permission to affect us in a way. If we are to, I won't say ignore it, but again, through reframing and other psychological tools that we have available to us, we can change the meaning and the way we perceive every situation in life. There is a great quote by Napoleon Hill, the man who wrote Think and Grow Rich, which states that every seed of adversity carries within it an equal or greater seed of a benefit, or meaning that every situation can be viewed in two ways, depending on where does your north on the compass points at, or where is your focus on? Are you looking for the opportunity for the positive, or are you looking for the negative and the problems, right? There are two ways of thinking. Also, we can look at it that way as well. Problem thinking and opportunity thinking. Some people are focused at looking for problems, where others are exact opposite, 180-degree turn. They're always looking for the opportunities and not necessarily for the problems, because problems, they'll present themselves anyways. Every time you as long as you've lived for a good while on this planet Earth and played the game of life, you'll realize that problems or challenges and so on are a natural part of life. And there's nothing you can do to avoid them. besides to sit at home in your comfort zone. But then if you do that, nothing happens. You don't grow, you don't contribute, your life don't go forward, and you stick stuck. You stay stuck and stagnant, which leads to your demise inevitably, because life will push you outside of your comfort zone, will test you, will throw a challenge at you, a problem, a trauma, or whatever it needs to shake you out of your little rabbit hole and get you to grow again. Because this game we call life, and this planet Earth is nothing but a big school for grown-up children. We're here to learn, to grow, and to contribute through this process. We're not here to be comfortable. We're not here to sit on our asses. We're not here to look for the easy way, for the tricks and hacks, the 1 minute thing, the magic pill or anything like this. There is no such thing. You cannot shortcut the growth in life. You can accelerate it, but you cannot shortcut it, if that makes any sense. So life is a subjective experience, and how you make it in your mind is how you're going to experience it, see it, feel it, taste it, hear it, and so on, right? Because we have 5 physical senses that everything that's happening to or around us in our external environment, because as probably you've noticed, or hopefully you've got to the point where you're aware enough that you notice that most of those senses that we have, 99.9% of the time, are pointed out at external environment rather than internal. Because we can feel the littlest thing crawling in our skin, but can you feel the 7,000 and so many gallons of blood the heart is pumping through your veins every single day? Probably not. Can you feel how your oxygen is going through your alluvial in your lungs and moving them, and the oxygen is being absorbed? No, you can't. All these senses, they're externally focused. So how we experience the external environment is through these 5 senses. And ultimately, these 5 senses feed data to our brain, which in essence is the hardware that the mind uses to create its picture, or in a way to create this experience of life that we have, of so-called material reality. So if we are to dissect this, then as the data comes in, the brain processes it and passes it along to our mind to start creating this experience, to have these emotions and so on. We can, in essence, filter it, or put our own filter. If we are, let's say, to take the Instagram example, right? You can take a photo or a video, apply some filter, and literally change the whole video and the context of it just by applying a filter. It's the same thing with the reframing, for example, or how we process the data that comes in. We have the power to change how we experience it and the meaning we create. So what I mean by meaning, how are we going to record it in our memory? Is it going to be positive? Is it going to be negative? Is it going to be neutral? Obviously, we have many options that we want to work with. However, we want to avoid the negative, especially if it's something highly emotional, because our brain, the subconscious mind, is going to record it, because everything that comes in our reality that is highly emotionally charged, regardless of good or bad, is being recorded directly in high definition into our subconscious mind. And if it's bad, it takes priority, because we have some parts in our brain that are very, in a way, outdated, that we have inherited from very early forms of life, called the amygdala, that gives priority to anything negative that comes in. So if we have this second or two, this little gap between data comes, we process it and have the experience, where we can filter things out, or we can adjust things, right? We can change the colors, the saturation. Maybe we can, deafen out the sound, put like make the certain part of the picture kind of blurry and invisible and so on. If we can do these things, which we can, being aware of it, then we can change our entire experience. So that's what I mean by life is a subjective experience. No two people experience things in the very same way based again on their beliefs, mindsets, how they process information, and what attitude they are, what state of mind they are in that moment, right? Because you probably noticed that if you're in a very kind of like agitated state and you go to some party and you've already kind of like been worked up in your head, but by the time you get there, you're just gonna experience it even worse. Like the experience is gonna turn out like worse. No matter how happy everybody is and how well things go, you'll still find a way to feel down or like find something about it that it's, you know, it wasn't perfect, right? Where if it's the other way around, if you go in with a neutral setup, or even better, you're excited and you're like, oh, I'm going to have a great time and I'm going to make sure that everyone else is having a great time too, and just be playful and let go of everything and just have a blast, then you're going to have not just a blast, but most likely, even if the party sucks, you're still going to have a blast and people around you will be like, ah, this kind of sucked, man, but you had so much fun. How the fuck do you do it, right? So our attitude going into things also, because it sets an expectation, sets the bar of how we're going to come into it, like what would be our base level, right? Because base level is always important. Where you have your base camp, where do you live and where do you visit? So that's why this subject and this talk today about developing personal empowerment is of extreme importance if we are to create an extraordinary life and come into the world with so much power and just inspiration and this drive to go and get things done and have a blast and play full out. So the next point I want to make is a very powerful quote that I love to say as often as possible, which is a quote by Henry Ford. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Why is this important? Well, what I just discussed about life being a subjective experience, now that you know that you can change the subjective experience just in your mind, you can adjust things. Just like if you're, again, using the Instagram example, or if you're, for example, editing video, you know, on Final Cut or whatever little software you're using to edit video, how you can adjust things and change the video significantly. So now that you know you can, and if you believe you can, you will be able to. So this is a very important fact. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Because if you think you can't, well, that would be the truth, because this will be your belief. So that's why we want to have an empowering belief too. We cannot have a level of self-empowerment that propels us forward to our goals, to our mission, to our purpose, to have an extraordinary life if we don't have empowering beliefs. It's our beliefs running our subconscious behavior, because our beliefs and our identity run our subconscious behavior. And what do I mean? All the behaviors we have is automatic, on autopilot, that we don't put a lot of conscious thought into. If we don't have empowering beliefs to run us when we're not consciously thinking and taking the wheel and steering ourselves through life, we're going to be acting in a very disempowered way. So this is a very important fact to consider. What is the psychological reframing? Well, psychological reframing, as I mentioned earlier, this is a very powerful tool, is to always find the positive in a situation, meaning that you will reframe, maybe, you know, let's use an example. I was driving my car down the highway, and all of a sudden I have a puncture and I'm running late for some kind of important appointment, right? While I'm driving with 60, 70 miles, all of a sudden flat tire. Successfully though, I am able to slow down and pull out to the extension lane and call the 911 or whatever, like one of these tow trucks or some AAA to help me. And I can be sitting and looking at the situation in two ways, right? Again, I can either find a positive or I can either find a negative. The negative will be like, damn, like I missed my appointment. Like this was so important. Now, like I'm screwed, whatever the hell it is, right? Where on the other hand, I can be like, man, like I'm so lucky. I'm so fortunate. Like I feel so blessed. Like I'm so grateful that, you know, even though this happened, my tire blew and I was going 70 miles, I was still able to slow down and safely pull out my car and be here in one piece now waiting for the AAA truck. I can always reschedule my appointment. And if the environment or life, God decided for me to not go to this appointment, maybe it was more important for me to not go there because there's a better opportunity that's going to come around, right? So this is what I mean by psychological reframing. We can either point our flashlight, our focus and our awareness towards looking at the negative, the problem, or we can point it at the positive or looking at the opportunity or what is there for us to gain, because there is always something to gain, right? If you use this question, this is a very powerful tool to use because questions are the steering wheel of the mind. So if we use this question, and especially in tough circumstances, right? Whenever things are not really working out the way you wish them to, or, you know, for example, not necessarily working out the way you wish them to, but something happened into your life that you didn't predict, didn't expect, just, you know, unexpected circumstance occurs that is at the surface level or initially looks as something very negative, and that you have a very negative charge for, you can start asking, like, write this down. How is this benefiting me? Where is my gift in this? Like, why is this gift coming to me? Like, what is here for me to learn? How can I benefit from this situation? Because the moment you put in this question to your subconscious mind, you don't have to sit down and just try to process it right now in that moment. You let your subconscious find it because it might not be apparent at the very moment as it's happening, but a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, maybe a month or two, 6 months down the road, you look back and you're like, wow, this was such a great opportunity. What happened, you know, was so good. Like my life is so much better due to this now rather than what it was. So think about this. Maybe there are situations in your life where prior you've thought that, man, this was the worst thing that could ever happen and happened to me, and you were so like disappointed, mad, and angry, and whatever it is, and all of a sudden now you can look back 6 months, maybe a year later, and you're like, wow, this was the best thing that happened to me. Like they fired me from this job, but now I have this amazing job that I didn't expect that I can ever have, or a girlfriend, like, you know, I broke up with my last girlfriend or boyfriend, and now like I find myself in this amazing relationship, or whatever it is, right? There's so many things. Always learn to point your flashlight of attention, consciousness, and awareness towards where is your gift. Ask, how is this benefiting me? Or how can I benefit from this? Right? Where is my gift here? If this is happening, it's not wholly negative. There is no such thing. In nature, there is no good or bad, right or wrong. There just things are. We, our mind, our psychology, and the way we are kind of like adjusted to be, our so-called baseline or tendencies create the meaning. We give the meaning to situations. The situations, they just are. We give meanings to them based on how we see the world or what we think should happen, and so on and so on. However, the only thing that we have total control over, if we accept the responsibility and learn how to use it, is ourself. We have total and complete control over ourselves. We don't have any control or right over anything outside of us. But this is extremely powerful because, as I already mentioned, how we experience reality has to do with this big thing right here called the brain, and then our not so visible mind, because that's the place where we create the meaning or the perception of what's really taking place in our life. So if we have this opportunity to make it whatever we want to make it and perceive it as we want, then why wouldn't we perceive it as a gift or find something beneficial to it? I cannot see a single benefit to look at it as something negative or always look for the negative. There is no benefit in that. No benefit. Nothing to be gained. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is that if we want to change our state, for example, you feel a little down, insecure, not confident, whatever it is, you just don't feel like you're at your best right now or at your peak, or you don't feel like you got it. If, let's say, if you're going to go up on stage or you got to do something that requires for you to be like high energy and so on, well, the first thing that affects our psychology directly is our physiology. Our posture, body posture directly, very quickly affects our psychology. And not just the posture, but the way we breathe, the way we look with our eyes, the way we hold our shoulders, the way we move, the way we talk, and so on. So our physiology directly affects our psychology. So for example, if you're stressed out, if you you feel your heart's racing, you're like kind of like you have this ball right here, a constriction in your gut, kind of like, you got the butterflies, so you get the anxiety and so on. Here's what you can do. First, relax in your body, right? Relax your body. And then deep and slow breaths in your belly. Put your arm right here on your belly and take deep, slow breaths. Slowly inhale and slowly exhale. And while you're doing it, kind of like constrict your throat right here, so you're making this kind of like deep sounds, hissing sounds, kind of like the Darth Vader breath, if you've seen the movie and you know what I'm talking about. So this very slow and relaxed, deep breathing will tell your body that everything is good and it should relax. And as long as your body is relaxed too, meaning like you're not tensing anything, shortly, maybe in a few minutes, you will relax. This is, for example, a very simple way to deal with fight or flight or stress response whenever you kind of feel stressed out or anxious and you're about to get yourself into something that you see very stressful, and you kind of like you set yourself up in your mind because what's going on is you just overthinking. You're placing too much importance on this thing that you're gonna do. You want this to work out so bad, and you're concerned of how people are gonna judge you or whatever the hell it is, right? And you working yourself up. It's nothing else, like, because you haven't even got on stage, for example. If it's stage fright that you have, or you haven't done it yet, but before you even got into it, you've already so worked up. Why is this? Because you're using your mind against you. Instead of to empower you, you're using it to disempower you and kind of like put the brakes and stop you. That's why we are having this conversation. What do you do in situations like this? So first of all, don't work yourself up. Don't think about too much. Trust that, I know this is something you'll have to test, because before you have experiential data to support what I'm going to say, you're not going to want to, most likely not going to believe me, but trust that you will do what is necessary if you're willing to let go of control in those circumstances that stress you out, and you trust that you will do whatever is necessary. What I mean by this, that you'll be able to improvise and flow. Because how many times you went into something and you had a plan in your head that you've been planning on for so long, and you've been going over and over and over, and as soon as you got into the situation or things started to develop, your plans fell in the sink, because literally everything, like all of a sudden something happened you never calculated for, and all your plans that you did, all this energy, all this nonsense that you've been going on in your head, now it's useless because things just rapidly change, and this is how life goes, right? So trust, let go, and flow. Be in this space of improvisation, because at the end of the day, if you're trying to grow, you have to be able to get into that space where you're happy to live from this place of question, of the unknown, and being okay with the unknown. Because if we're here to learn and grow, there's obviously questions that we don't know the answers to yet, because we're here to learn and grow. If we knew all the answers to all the questions, then what the fuck are we doing in this school, right? Somebody must have thrown us in the wrong class. And I would imagine that if you were acing the school from day one, then you wouldn't be watching this video. You'll be, sitting in the Bahamas drinking your cocktails, buried in swimming in money and whatever the hell it is that you have on your mind, right? Or maybe driving your SpaceX shuttle and, having a submarine, whatever the hell it is, right? Now, something that's extremely important to start building up, because this is something that you'll have to integrate into your way of being, is an empowered self-identity, or I am statement. What do I mean by this? Well, you see, as I mentioned earlier, our sense of identity and our beliefs control our subconscious behavior, or 95% of our behavior, because the subconscious mind makes 95% of the mind, and the other 5% is the conscious mind. So if you want to be functioning from an empowered place 95% of the time, you want to create this empowered I am statement. Because a lot of people think that their I am statement, or if you ask them who you are, they say, oh, I'm a whatever, I'm a banker, I am a real estate agent, or I am a teacher, I'm a doctor, or whatever it is, or I'm a father, or I'm a husband, or I'm a mother, right? That they let something in their external environment define who they are, rather than they sitting down and designing an empowered I am statement that allows them to come from an empowered place and state each time they step outside of their comfort zone. For example, here is one of my identities that I like. I will want to specify something. I like to keep my identity very open and flexible, because the system's principle and rule states that the most flexible part in any system becomes the leader, or the part with the most control and power in the system, because it has the most flexibility and ability to, and possibilities and opportunities, right? If you're rigid, then it's very hard to play this game of life, because I don't know if you noticed, but all rivers out there in nature bend and twist and so on and so on. So they're flowing in all directions like zigzag, like little snakes and so on, all over the earth, right? And this is how life goes. You need to be flexible. When you look at water, right? Water, this simple thing that nurtures us, keeps us hydrated and so on, is so powerful that, for example, through many millions of years that has been flowing through, looking for the path of least resistance, because it's so flexible, has digged out this huge hole, or this monument and natural treasure, which is the Grand Canyon, for example, right? It was carved through water that's been just floating, looking for the path of least resistance. And that's what I mean by having a flexible and open identity statement. First, you have to be comfortable with I am, period. Because here's a good question. Who are you without your name? Have you thought about this? What is your name? It's just a sound people know you by and you respond to, right? But you didn't choose your name. Maybe you changed your name and you chose it, but again, it's just a label that you put on yourself. So when somebody says hi and then your name, you know they're talking to you, but that's about it. Are you your name? Of course not. It's just a label. Are you your work title? Of course not. It's just a label. And all these labels you can take off and change, just like you change your name, right? It's the same thing. So for example, here's one of my statements that I like to add after I am. I am anything and everything I have to be at any given moments that empowers me to thrive. Now, look at the idea here. I'm anything and everything I have to be in every single moment that empowers me to thrive. So it's already an empowered identity statement. You're welcome to adopt this one and start repeating it to yourself, because this is how you're going to start installing it into your psyche and your being. Especially if you're a heightened state of emotion, saying this over and over, every single day in front of the mirror, you have to have an empowered statement like this of who you are. Because you're not your job, you're not what you do at home, you're not your name. You can be whatever you want to be. You have the power to define it for yourself. So I advise you and encourage you to go and create an amazing empowered I am statement and repeat it to the point where it becomes part of who you are. And you don't have to think about twice. Now, moving forward from here, I already mentioned that our sense of identity and our beliefs define and control our unconscious behavior. So we also want to be conscious of not only our sense of identity, but also our subconscious beliefs that we might not be aware of, right? How do we know what our limiting or, let's say, negative beliefs might be? Well, whenever you find yourself in a situation that you feel disempowered, that you feel like a victim in the situation, that there's always something you blame, you justify, and so on, sit down, and if you have a younger brother or a child or somebody younger that doesn't have a good idea, explain it to them. And as you explain, you will notice, if you pay attention, that you will see what your limiting belief is. Because when you have to explain yourself to someone in a very simple and structured way, all these things you hold for truth in your head, maybe unconsciously, will surface. And again, if you're conscious and aware enough, you'll be able to notice what they are. And then once you do, you can start replacing them because we cannot upgrade or update or improve something that we are unaware of. We have to first become conscious and aware of this fact. And then we have a lot of things within our power to do about it. Now, the next point is your mental model of the world. All right, again, because if life is a subjective experience, your mental model is the main filter or the main preset that everything is first filtered through and spit out or experienced through your senses, right? The mental model is how you look at the world. on a lot of different levels. And in order to create an empowered mental model, the first step is having empowered beliefs. So again, going back to your beliefs and choosing or looking at what are your limiting beliefs so you can replace them with better ones. But here are a set of the most empowering beliefs that, in my opinion, are priceless to have it installed. First and foremost, the universe is a benevolent place that has secretly conspired to keep us happy, healthy, wealthy, successful, loved, and desired. The second one, everything is absolutely possible and we are fully capable of it. Third, there are infinite possibilities available to me or us at all times. And fourth, abundance, wealth, and prosperity are our most natural and omnipresent birthright and state. So you already see how empowering these beliefs are, and if you install them and you come from this place as you start to build a new mental model that empowers you to thrive in life and really go and play full out, this is a very good starting point to have. Now, you can install any belief that you have. These are just 4 beliefs that are extremely powerful and essential to build upon. The next one is your values. And what do I mean by this? Well, we all have values. And if you examine your life to the point of what do you always have time for, you will quickly discover what your values are. The things you have time for in your life and you care for, you value, or they're some of your values. And they change over time, but if you look back in your life, you'll be able to notice, again, coming from this filter of, oh, what do I always have time for? Even in a busy day, what do I always find time for, right? What are these things? If you notice what they are, you will recognize that they are some of your values. For example, I'll tell you what mine are. Mine are growth, contribution, health, spirituality. These are, for example, 4. I'm not going to go into detail, but I just wanted to give you an example. These are 4 things, for example, in my life that I always have time for on a daily basis. No excuses. No matter how busy my day is, how late I wake up, maybe because I stayed late working on something or spend a good time with my lady friend or whatever it was, right? Like, I'll always have time for these things because they are my values. And the second part is, are you, right, when I say values, since we're creating an empowered mental model, these values have to be things that actually benefit, right? They have to be positive values, or values that add value to your life. And then the second part to it is the rules, or the if-then model. If you watch any of the previous episodes, you would hear me discuss in detail the if-then model. Like, what needs to happen in order for you to feel that your value is being fulfilled, or is you've reaching, a level of where this value is being added to or benefited, right? What are the rules? What needs to happen in order then, right? What is the if-then, right? This is a highly dysfunctional model. I would highly advise you to bury it somewhere and never look back for it again, because it's highly dysfunctional and it's a very disempowered model of belief and thinking and looking at the world. But this is the next part. Once you realize what your values are, then what are the rules? How do you know you're serving your values? Like, how do you know you're doing something beneficial for them, right? What needs to happen in order for you to feel that you do? And as long as you can lower that bar, or make it independent of outside circumstances, and then make it totally within your control, So regardless if you're homeless on the street, you can still do it, right? Because this is a very healthy way to set those values or those rules. No matter what happens in your external environment, that doesn't affect if you can deliver or not on these values. So it's within your control, even if you're a homeless person on the street. Because that's a very empowering place to come from. Because as long as you live from your values, you'll feel empowered, you'll feel great, you'll have a lot of energy, and you'll be on purpose and on point. And again, as long as also these values are beneficial to you and others, because at the end of the day, if those values are served, but they're not serving you at the greater level, then there's not much of a point to have it. Now, the next part is your top 2 needs. We all have different needs in life. And if your top 2 needs or your driving needs are needs that are valuable and empowering, then you'll be adding a lot of rocket fuel into your mental model of reality. And we're not going to go in deep discussion into the needs today. We'll leave it for another episode, but we'll go over them on a basic level so you have a good understanding of what I'm talking about. There are 6 needs that each and every human being have to fulfill to a certain degree. And again, some of them are driving needs, kind of like the primary needs, and some are just good to have. In a sense, like you all have to meet them in a certain way. So starting from the most basic one, the most basic need is certainty. We all need a level of certainty. In some people in this modern society that have been unfortunately brainwashed on a high level to seek comfort and ease in life and safety and so on, certainty has become a leading priority. And this is something that really handicaps you. If it's a driving need for you to have certainty, well, here is the truth. There is no certainty in life. In an impermanent universe, there is no certainty because nothing is permanent. Again, as we were talking about empowering models, everything is absolutely possible, right? There are infinite possibilities, which means that as we sit on this big mud bowl, the Earth, today, well, tomorrow there could be a huge asteroid that comes and wipes us out all of a sudden from nowhere. It's absolutely possible, isn't it? That's what they say that wiped out the dinosaurs. Do you think they had time to go and kind of move planets or something like this? No, of course not. Same was going to happen to us if this was ever to happen. We're not going to have time to do anything about it. So there is no certainty here. Or there could be a huge tsunami or a hurricane or even it could be a lightning strike striking you as you walk down the street out in the middle of nowhere, right? This has happened. People electrocuted by thunderbolts. I mean, seriously. So certainty as a need is something that's going to disempower you as long as you live. There's no other way to say it. Certainty is, we all need a certain level of certainty, meaning that, when you go to sleep, right, there's a basic level, don't get me wrong. But when certainty becomes your driving need or one of the 2 main needs you have in life, you're constricting your life to this little box of safety, and it's a illusionary box of safety because, again, there is no certainty in an impermanent universe. So don't choke yourself. As we all know, and it's great that there is a higher power beyond our comprehension that beats our hearts and makes sure that we breathe as we go to sleep and so on. So that's what I mean by certain level of certainty. If you were ensured that when you go to sleep, something's going to keep beating your heart and you're going to keep on breathing and so on, would you go to sleep? Well, probably not, right? If you have to consciously breathe all the time and you'll go into coma without breathing and doing it yourself, you're probably not going to go to sleep, right? So there are basic needs of certainty. Or me sitting in this room, if I didn't know that, or I was certain to a certain extent that the ceiling above my head would be sitting there and it's pretty stable, and it's not all of a sudden just knock me out by falling over, I probably wouldn't be sitting here, would I? So there's a certain level of certainty that we need to have, but allowing certainty to be our driving needs, that's something completely different. Now, the opposite of certainty, because a lot of these, each one of those, the first four, they're kind of in opposite to each other. They balance each other, right? On one end, you have certainty. The other is uncertainty. Or what do I mean by uncertainty? Variety, or this level of the unknown. Because once your life, let's say if your driving need in life was certainty, then at a certain point, you'll have so much certainty that your life becomes stagnant, boring, and the same, right? Like same routine every single day, everything at a certain moment, you'll be like, wow, you'll wake up and you're like, you know, a few years down the road and be like, oh, I need some variety, man. This is killing me. Like, it was fun and safe and predictable at first, but then now I feel like I'm like fully choking, right? So we need a certain degree of uncertainty. And the best way to handle uncertainty is to get massively certain that you are able to handle uncertainty. And the only way you can do it is by putting yourself in situations that stretch your comfort zone, right? Outside of your comfort zone, things that make you uncomfortable, things that require for you to deal with unknowns. And not in a silly way where you risk your life or nonsense, but situations, again, where you know something is testing you, it's making you anxious, because anxiety is the emotion of growth. Given that it's not being avoided or being given a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? No desire to be experienced, because every time, again, when we put ourselves in a situation where we are to grow, we're to expand in this outside of our comfort zone, feeling anxiety would be completely normal. And as long as we're not refusing to feel that sensation, we're not honoring it and we're trying to suppress it, right? Given that it's not being suppressed or dishonored or like not being allowed to be, we try to push it away. It's totally fine because it's normal. It's kind of like, again, in one of my videos, I talked about this again, that it's actually a natural indication that we are doing something that's stretching us, that's allowing us to grow. So we have certainty, we have uncertainty. Now, the next need is that of significance. We all have a need of significance, to feel special, to feel different, to feel unique, and so on and so on and so on and so on. But once the need of significance becomes your driving need, this is a highly destructive process that is entirely ego-based and driven. And because on the other side of significance is love and connection and belonging, meaning that you get to spend high quality moments with family, with friends, with loved ones, and so on. The more significant you get, the more different you become, and the less you're capable of connecting or relating to others. So even though people use significance as a vehicle to gain love and connection, it's actually doing them a disservice, a great disservice, because the more different, more significant, and far away from the others you become, well, there is less to connect on. Because if you notice, people connect on similarities. Whenever two new people meet, they're always looking for the similarities or the points where what they do are similar, what they like, and so on. So you're looking for similarities rather than differences, right? So by becoming more significant, you're definitely not going to be getting more love or connection to people. Definitely not. So this is a very unhealthy thing to do, because again, it's coming from a very unhealthy, egoistic place. But maybe this is the part of the journey you're on that you need to go through to realize this. Again, now going on the other side of the scale, right? Because we have significance and love and connection or belonging on the other end, right? So, for example, then choosing needs that are positive. For example, what's a positive need? The love and connection. If this is a need that you have to be loved, or you want to give love, because to need to be loved is a very needy thing, and nobody likes needy people. Not nowhere in the universe anyone or anything likes needy people. So love and connection is a great value or a need to have, but now from the place of when it's coming from a conditional place. I will love you for this. Again, if then, right? I will love you for this, or I will feel love if this happens. No. The most essential thing to do to provide this need and connection is to develop first a level of self-love. Because if you have self-love, that you know you love yourself and you know you're lovable, because we all are, then it's not hard to bring love or for others to love you, because you love yourself. You're coming from this place, you will attract, as you resonate from this frequency, you will attract the same reflection or the same people into your life, people that love you. And the other two needs are the needs of the spirit or the soul or the actual I am, this witness that we have that sees, that experience, that says, again, I am, that knows that you're having this experience we call the game of life. And these two needs are growth and contribution. Now, if you make these two needs your primary driving needs, you're going to be coming into the world from a very empowered place, because every time, obviously, if you're looking to grow, you're not going to be afraid of or avoiding any challenges or things that come along the way. You'll be actually looking forward to anything that turns up and tests you and challenges you and puts you in outside of your comfort zone and stretch your comfort zone and really like tests you, because this is how you grow. And you cannot contribute by not growing, or the more you grow, the more you can contribute, the more of your gifts you can develop and you can share for the greatest good of the world. So if those are two primary needs, then you're coming into the world from a very powerful place. So I do advise you to sitting down and kind of like taking a deep look into this and be like, what are my needs? Like, what are the things that have been driving me so far? Like, do I need certainty? Haven't I needed variety or uncertainty? Like, have I been looking for significance through my title of work, at the things I've acquired, the way I am, and or have I always been kind of like needy for love and validation from others and so on? Or have I been on this path of growth for all my life or for a significant amount of time? Obviously, if you're watching this video, to a certain extent, growth is something that's important to you, because you wouldn't be watching this video an hour into it if growth wasn't something you care about or a value of yours or a need. And then contribution. What can you do with your gifts, right? How can you make the world a better place and leave it a better place than you found it when you came in? Because we are all guests here, and we're all welcome to make ourselves at home, but eventually we'll all have to go. So we want to live our host's home better than we found it, or at least not worse off. So that's another level of how to build upon a mental model or an empowered mental model that serves us into our life. Now, the next thing is the vehicles, or how do we fulfill our needs. If we have all these needs, what do we use? What kind of activities do we use or need to use in order to fulfill those needs? Are they serving us? Are they serving us on a certain level, but at the same time they're destroying us on another? Are they serving the greater good? Are they doing good for the world? For example, if you want to feel good, one of your needs is, let's say, variety and significance and so on, and you want to feel good, well, you can, take some drugs and feel very good for a while. But is this something that's doable long term, and is it really benefiting you, or something temporary that it's kind of like a patch that's giving you the distraction and the numbiness you need to numb out from whatever you don't want to deal with, right? Or is it better, for example, to go and work out? Because by working out, you'll be releasing 3 out of the 4 hormones that make you feel amazing: dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins. So which vehicle is better for you to feel good? Working out or going and taking drugs, for example? All right, so what vehicles do you use? There are 4 classes of vehicles: good for you, good for others, good for the environment, and so on. Not good for you in the long term, good for you in the short term, not good for others, and not good for the environment. Right? There are different levels of vehicles that you can use. The key is to find vehicles that allow you to fulfill your needs that are good for all parties involved, on the shorter term and the long term, and so on. So if you choose those vehicles, things that benefit you, benefit others, and it's going to serve you and the greater good, then even better. Right? So being conscious of how do you fulfill those needs is very important. The next point is, what is your focus on? Now, you see a lot of people don't realize this, but they suffer a lot. And again, it's usually just by overthinking and just thinking too much about things, placing too much importance on certain things, on themselves and so on, that is causing them suffering, problems, anxiety, stress, and so on in life. And that's because they're egocentric, or they're totally centered on them. Their own sole focus in life is themselves. It's always about what's in it for me, or YFM radio, right? What's in it for me? 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 Like, they're so self-obsessed that they have become the center of the world. And this is what causing them all this problem, because they don't see how insignificant their problems are, and they are on the whole scale of things. The key here is the perspective you take. If you are able to zoom in momentarily and kind of like go and imagine you're looking down from the International Space Station or planet Earth, and try to imagine now where you at. You're just like a dust particle on the whole scale of things. And that's from the International Space Station. Now imagine you took this, extra modern spacesuit, the spaceship that the aliens brought from somewhere in one of these fiction movies, right? And you flew on the other end of the universe. Now looking from that perspective, where is Earth? Oh, who knows? Where is the Milky Way galaxy? Well, who knows? Like, on that scale, you can imagine. And then where are you? You're not even a speck of dust. Or me, or for that matter, this planet. All right? So depending on the perspective, if you're so zoomed in and you kind of like, you're like right here, you like racing horse with those things around. They cannot see on the sides what's going on. Oh, you see it's right in front of you. You don't see everything else. You have this very limited view of what's going on, and you're so self-absorbed that this is causing you a lot of suffering. Now, if you change your viewpoint or you focus on ethnocentric, or meaning like serving others or being concerned about your community, you'll start to see how things start to shift. And you have more power because now you're coming from a place of service. And if you expand this to world-centric view, when it's no longer about your community, but you understand that you're a human being living on planet Earth. And again, taking this example or analogy of looking at planet Earth from the International Space Station, if you look down, do you see borders? Do you see countries? Do you see anything like this? No, you don't. I don't either. Right? We all human beings living on planet Earth and sharing this beautiful mud bowl with all this various forms of life. I have this question for you, something that's been in my mind for a very long time. Why do, for example, birds, right, all kinds of migrating animals that migrate thousands of miles every year don't need a visa or a passport to travel or visit different countries? Why do human beings do? So each and every animal has a priority. They don't have to deal with this kind of stuff. But we human beings, we play by this limiting belief that there are countries, there are borders and all this stuff. But when you look at the reality, there is none of it. Like, what kind of a nonsense is this, right? So where is your focus? Is it egocentric, ethnocentric, world-centric? The more open your focus, the more empowered you will be and the less limitations, again, because the further you zoom in, the more limited you are. The further down you're into this pipeline, right? Into this funnel. And you know, funnels go like this and get thinner towards the end. And ethnocentric is like this. Ethnocentric is like this. You know, world-centric could be the whole universe, or universe-centric, whatever you want to call it. Point being that removing this self-concern and being concerned with the greater good. Again, if one of your needs, again, is contribution, then having a world-centric view will do you wonders, right? Starting to view the world as this connected ball of life and energy, rather than just this tiny little bubble that you have that can burst at any time. And then the next one would be, or rather is, what is your primary question that you ask yourself every single day? Now, I would love to share mine with you, but it happens to be almost 6 or 10 paragraphs long, and I'm not gonna go into depth with it. But having an empowered question, you ask yourself powerfully every single day. For example, before I started shooting the video, the question I asked myself was, how can I serve you guys powerfully today? How can I deliver inspiration, education, and empowerment to each and every one of you? How can I serve you powerfully and move you today so you can go and take action and do something for yourself, for your community, for your loved ones, and so on? How can I help you grow and contribute, right? So that was a question I asked myself. So if you, again, using this same expression from earlier, that questions are the steering wheel of the mind, by writing down an empowered question that allows you to always look for, again, as also we looked at earlier, as the question as, how is this benefiting me? Or where's my gift in this, right? Maybe your question is, how can I maximize my gifts to serve humanity to my highest degree? How can I give all of my gifts and have the greatest contribution? Whatever that question might be for you, by having this empowered question that you always go back to and is always running into your subconscious mind. So your subconscious mind is coming with the ideas and all the intuitive hints that you're going to get as well. You're going to start getting this guidance towards what you can do. How can you do it, right? So having this empowered question running in the background, doing the work for you, because this is how the subconscious mind works. You input a question, and you kind of like go back or go to your day as normal. You don't sit around and just think about it. No, you just input the question, you let go, you go about your day as normal, and then eventually the answer will come back. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe a week later as you are walking down the beach or taking a shower. You just have to trust. That's important. Trusting is a very important thing skill to develop by having this empowered primary question. So now going this from here, the next step we need to look at is not only do you need a empowered mental model, but you need an empowered mindset, because there are deeper levels of distinctions into this, but the most general level is that when we look at mindsets, you can either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And you'll probably understand what I mean, that by having a fixed mindset, you're one of these people that you know everything. You're always right. There's nothing for you to learn. You're just this genius, brilliant people. Like, they should probably give you a Nobel Prize just for being born, right? Well, I'm sorry, but probably you're not on the list of people that would get one. Because those who do are the ones with the growth mindset. But if you didn't have growth mindset, you wouldn't be watching this video, because at this point, there will be so many beliefs that are challenging yours that you'll be like, oh, forget about it, because another kind of like a very predominant characteristic of people with fixed mindset or fixed mindset is they're very close-minded. They cannot tolerate or entertain new ideas, especially ideas that challenge their beliefs on a very fundamental level. So you're probably not going to be here. But having this growth mindset where you're always looking to grow, where you're always like open to learning something new and knowing that the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know and how much. And the truth is, we will never know it all, because this is not the point in the school. This is just a school, right? Just like if you graduate high school, you don't get to know everything, do you? Even if you graduated college with a PhD, do you still know everything? Of course not. There is no degree for knowing it all, right? So this is kind of the truth. We're always going to be on this growth path and growing and learning and expanding as we go. And as long as we have this growth mindset, we come into the world from an empowered state, because we always know that there's something else for us to learn. And we know that we are this rough stone that can be polished to become this brilliant diamond. And that's kind of the idea. We've been polished and polished and polished to immense brilliance along the way. So keeping it open and having a growth mindset that allows you to grow, to entertain new ideas and so on, and test different identities and beliefs and so on and so on, so you can find the ones that are most effective in serving you. Because I'm just giving you ideas. I'm not saying that you have to be in this specific way. There is no one size fits all. If you probably know or heard me saying this before. There are just things that are effective or ineffective. That's the way I look at it. There is no wrong, there is no good, there is no bad, there is no right, there is no wrong. Given the desired outcome, there are just things that are effective and things that are ineffective. That's the way I like to look at it and measure by what's effective and what's ineffective in the desire, based on my desired outcome in a certain situation or my intention for the situation, because that's a different topic of discussion we're going to have and take a deep look in another time. Now, as I said already, if growth is, and you have a growth mindset, and growth is one of your driving needs or one of your needs or even a value and so on, and you want to be empowered, one thing that you can create, a habit that you can create, or a trait, a skill that you can create is to become comfortable being uncomfortable. What do I mean by this? By being, I don't say comfortable necessary, but at least being neutral every time when you feel uncomfortable, when you have this anxiety and you feel like your comfort zone is being stretched, to at least be neutral and realize that this is serving, right? When you coming from a place of growth mindset and empowered beliefs and so on, it's important to develop this innate orientation that even though, yes, this is uncomfortable right now and this and that, I'm neutral, or at least, in worse, again, you're not avoiding it, you're just neutral. Big deal. I feel this way, I recognize it, I'm not suppressing my anxiety and so on, I'm not avoiding it, I'm not suppressing it, I'm not denying it, I know, because here's my notification coming in from the universe, oh, this is an area for me to grow and expand. Oh, wow, how wonderful, right? Like the universe even thought about this. Like they send you a notification, a push notification that you can't ignore, right? That you know what's an area in your life that you can grow. How wonderful is this? Like, this is the way I look at it. Wow, this is, every time I get this hit, because we all do, regardless of how many times you get into that situation, and you feel this feeling or emotion and sensation in your body, it never goes away, right? Every time you sit your foot or you get into a situation that's stretching you outside of the comfort zone, you're going to experience this anxiety. And this is absolutely normal. This is, again, just this push notification that's telling you, oh, here it is, go for it. This is your chance to grow and expand, right? We're here to learn and grow. And coming from this place, and again, being comfortable or becoming comfortable, being uncomfortable, at least be neutral about it and don't have a charge. All right, it's a very powerful place to come from, rather than to avoid it or to feel like, I feel like this, I don't like feeling this. You're not a 3 or 4-year-old child anymore. You're a grown-up person. And watch my emotional intelligence video I haven't yet, to get a lot of deeper perspective and understanding how emotions works and how to work with them, and not be disempowered by strong emotions, feelings, and sensations, and especially negative ones, or the ones that you don't necessarily want to experience or are top on your priority list. Again, I already mentioned this, but I want to go over it once more time to kind of drive it home. There is no certainty in an impermanent universe. Become massively certain that you can handle uncertainty. Be comfortable and happy to live from the place of a question and unknown every time you step outside of your comfort zone, because this is when it's going to happen, or where you challenge. Again, coming from this place, empowered place of I'm here to grow and learn. Every time I'm in this situation, what's in it? Like, where is my gift here? How am I benefiting? How am I being stretched? There is no certainty in this game of life. If there is anything certain in the human existence, pretty much there are two things: taxes and debt. Right? These are two certain things for sure. If you're looking for certainty, well, here is your certainty. If that's what you want, I would imagine that's not what everybody wants, and definitely not me. I'm not on the list for both, even though I'm, a good taxpayer and so on. It's definitely not on my priority list. So if I want certainty, I don't go for certainty. The only certainty I create is that I become massively certain that I can handle uncertainty. I have become so comfortable and being uncomfortable that I have turned it into a proactive activity in my life to where I look for these things again that are not dangerous, endangering, or putting my life in danger, that stretch my comfort zone and allow me to grow and stretch me, because this is important to me on my journey, because growth is part of one of my values and one of my needs. And I just adore it, love it, and absorb it as much as possible, whenever possible. So at this point, I'm going to say I hope this was a great video and you guys got a lot of powerful insights. Please go below and take me up on my amazing offer for a complimentary full-blown coaching session via Zoom. I want to serve you powerfully and help you to overcome your greatest challenge or take advantage of your most promising opportunity in this moment. Just go below, book your coaching session. I look forward to serving you powerfully. You can also follow the link below and sign up for my 5-day online holistic transformation challenge that is loaded with plenty of powerful insights, exercises, and hacks that you can take and implement into your life right away to make a significant difference and gain some noticeable results. Also, I recently created a new wonderful community on Facebook called the Personal Mastery Society, through which my goal is to build a community of like-minded people who are here to grow, to learn, to contribute, and want to join a community of like-minded individuals to support each other, to keep each other accountable, to add value, to share good ideas, to share unusual ideas, to expand our worldviews, and so on. So please follow the link, join the group. I look forward to having you as one of our members. Also, hopefully by the end of next month, or this month actually, and beginning of next month, things will start to flow in a more normal and regular way after all of the staycations and fancy and interesting period that we've been through. And I'm hosting over 12 different workshops in person, talking about the same topics but going much deeper and doing group exercises and answering a lot of questions. So if you want to, again, follow the link below, click and see what event you're interested in. Come join us, meet us. It'll be wonderful to meet you in person and serve you powerfully. And finally, if you think this video was great, there's a lot of insights and value in it, please like it, share it with your friends, with those who you know this can benefit from this video. Post a comment, leave me a question. If there's a question, a burning question I can answer for you, I'm always happy to serve you powerfully. So leave me a question, leave me a comment. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and allowing me again to serve you. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.